there was a missed opportunity in my younger years to really educate myself on what's right for me and my body. And that's no fault to anyone. I just was like, all right, I gotta run on the treadmill for an hour a day to feel good. I like to explain to people that when you step on a scale, you're gonna see one number. And that number is so vague. It's like, what is that? It's okay to have that competitive mindset. I have a competitive mindset. So once I switched it to me competing with everyone else versus like, I'm competing with myself. I'm a big believer that movement is medicine. It's preventative medicine. If you can get up and move your body, whether it's a walk down the street, walking like 30 minutes, start with 30 minutes.
You're listening to the Transformed with Data podcast with Graeme Crawford, CEO of Crawford Macmillan. Graeme is here to share something he's genuinely passionate about. He's going to show you how data can completely change the outcome for both people and businesses. In each episode, he sits down with real people who've done incredible things with data. But don't worry, these aren't your typical dry case studies. Graeme and his guests bring you stories about leaders and innovators who saw something in their data that sparked a brand new reality. These are changes that tore through entire industries, upended company cultures, and sometimes even changed lives. So whether you're a data enthusiast or just curious about how to find the truth in your data, join Graeme as he discovers how data becomes more than just numbers. It becomes the spark that ignites real, meaningful change. Let's get started. Thanks for listening.
Most people think fitness is about willpower. Push harder, sweat more, chase the leaderboard. But when you're sitting on one of the largest continuous biometric datasets in the industry, the truth is uncomfortable. The data shows effort isn't always the best predictor of results. Recovery, restraint, and trust are. Maddie Hill sees this play out every day. As regional fitness manager at Orangetheory, she's translating millions of heartbeats into coaching decisions across multiple studios. From mowing mechanics to adaptive algorithms, she understands how data reshapes not just workouts, but behavior, customer attention, and even community culture. In this episode, Maddie's going to reveal what your heart rate is really telling you and why most of us are misreading the signals. So let's dive in. Welcome, Maddie Hill, or Coach Maddie as I know her. So great to have you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, it's great to have you. This wonderful industry that you're in that brings much benefit to everyone. How did you end up becoming a fitness professional? Like, was it a dream from being a little girl, or do you fall into it? Like, how did you end up here?
So it's so funny. I actually never saw myself in this industry. I started in performance. So from a very young age, I loved singing, dancing, being on stage, which you've taken my class many times. I think it translates.
Oh, Maddie, we need to talk about this.
I know that's a whole other thing. But starting off in the performance industry, got my degree. Certainly performance has been a part of my life forever. So when I needed to make a career shift post-COVID, right, like that whole industry just disappeared overnight.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
How do you fill that? How do you fill that void but also make money and move forward in your career? And group fitness just kind of slid in. Orangetheory just popped up when I needed it. And I started off as a member, actually. So I've grown up with the brand as a member. Performing and fitness tie hand in hand. So it was really nice to moving to DCVA, finding a studio near me and getting a job as a coach and started off. And the rest is history.
And the rest is history, as they say. I want to dig a little more into history. What sort of performance were you doing?
So opera, music, theater. So singing, the 4-year program, super rigorous. So the dance, the acting side of it was also a huge part of it. So once I graduated, obviously performing on stages a whole lot, moved to LA, did jazz singing out there with a group. And that was very brief, but I loved every second of it.
I love it. So if you were to, I'm all about data and numbers, right? So if you were to stack rank your triple threat, acting, dancing, singing, like where would you put yourself? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, love the triple threat of singing, acting, and dancing. Dancing was always something I needed to get better at. It was not my strong, funny enough, but I loved dancing.
Of all the things I thought I'd uncover that we might have subsequent conversations about, this is absolutely one of them. I met my wife on stage in a musical theatre show we were performing together. Yeah, we were performing together in 2007. We were performing in a production of Carousel,
Oh
the
my
Rodgers and Hammerstein
goodness.
classic.
Yes. Classic.
Uh,
Who did you play?
and I was playing Jigger, the bad guy. Um, and yeah, I had great fun perfecting my evil look at the end of Act One, staring into the audience, brandishing a knife. And
Fantastic.
Sarah, my wife, was the dance captain and the leader of the Carousel ballet, and that's where we first met and began to get to know each other. So I've been in many productions since then, and I know what a hard world it can be, because many of the people that we used to perform with have gone on to pursue it. In fact, we're going to visit one of our friends, Tom, who we both used to live with, is one of the dads in Mamma Mia on Royal Caribbean. So we're going on a cruise to go watch him 7 times in a week, probably.
That's amazing. Do you ever perform like now? Are you still in your performing era?
I had 2 last hurrahs before I left the UK. So I left the UK in 2015. And in April 2015, in that short period before leaving that year, I did 2 of my most challenging performing things. One was I was part of a barbershop quartet that came 10th at UK Nationals. So that was fun. Barbershop's incredibly challenging, as you all know, because there's nobody to keep you in time, nobody to keep you in tune, no instruments to rely on. It's basically you 4 people have to become one.
And the harmonies are tight. Like you have to stay on your harmony, like very precise.
And if someone goes, everyone has to go with them. Otherwise, it turns into a mess pretty quickly. So there was that, and then this is definitely a story for another time. But in that final year, I got picked up for a semi-professional production of The Full Monty, which was for those listening on Apple or Spotify, Maddie's mouth is currently wide open.
This is like a whole other side. This is just a whole other side to you that you don't normally see. Like, obviously, you're coming in and sweating and leaving, but like in the studio, I would have never guessed Full Monty.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a tremendous challenge from a mental, emotional, psychological perspective. But the one that will always stick in the mind that people always ask about, of course, is the finale of the show when the hat gets raised. And actually there is nothing there but the trust you place in the sound and lighting team, because on the 6th beat of the last bar, they silhouette the stage lighting and simultaneously flash halogen blinders into the audience so that they don't see. But there was a beat that we never missed.
When you talk about just what it takes to put on a whole production, and just like the lights, the stage, the sound, the actors, there's nothing like it. Like people ask me all the time, like, do you miss it? And my answer is always yes. Would I go back?
Painfully miss it. Yeah.
Like you can't describe that feeling of when the magic happens, when you do hit that beat. There's nothing. You can't compare.
Oh, you hit that chord and you hear the 5th floating across, the 5th note floating. Yeah, it's magical. The closest I got, and I would recommend this to you if you hadn't been. I went with a friend in September to something called the Broadway Rave at the 9:30 Club in DC, and they basically got a couple of musical theater performers. They basically DJ, but they lead an entire sing-along of the whole 9:30 Club in Broadway songs for about 4 hours.
I'm there.
It's happening again on November 15th, Maddie, just saying. Like, well, let's continue this conversation. The people dress up, people go all out. If you ever want to see like what it's like, 200 people belting out Dear Evan Hansen at the same time, then that's where you need to be.
I'm marking my calendar now.
So performance led you into fitness. And I can see like with the format that you use at Orangetheory, why the performance would be good. The presence that you have and the clarity you speak with. As well as the controlling the attention of the room. I can see how all of that would help. But what was the transition into fitness like, and what are some of your memories from kind of moving across?
Fitness for the longest time for me was I have to look a certain way, I have to perform a certain way. Like I knew exactly how I felt in moments on stage when I didn't feel my most fit or when I wasn't on top of my fitness. And I really think there was a missed opportunity in my younger years to really educate myself on what's right for me and my body. And that's no fault to anyone. I just was like, all right, I gotta run on the treadmill for an hour a day to feel good. But I didn't have any concept of strength training. I didn't understand how anything was happening inside of my body. I just knew I had to fit into this size to be in this costume to look a certain way on stage. So when I started to take a deeper dive into fitness and when I, got certified and wanted to become a coach, it took on a whole other meaning for me because I wasn't just educating others. I wasn't just coaching others. I was coaching myself. Um, and that could absolutely be, we could dive into layers on how that helped mentally and physically. But I certainly felt like the transition going into fitness was so much more about me figuring out myself in a new environment. Yes, I was doing it as a job, but also like what feels good with my body. As I went in, I was 25, 26 when I started. So yeah.
Having gone through that journey yourself, and I actually talk with my data clients, I talk with that about them because I've been through the journey that they've been through. Like I've led organizations through changing their data environments as you have. And imagine a person showing up on day one at Orange Theory, they're exactly where you were, and you having walked in their shoes must be an incredibly powerful thing that helps you help them.
I think like let's strip it back to like what Orange Theory is and something that I think a lot of people do have questions about. Like there's so much out there, but like what Orange Theory is that full body group workout environment that blends both like the cardio, strength training, and the coaching to help you burn fat, build muscle fast. And most members, when they come in, they don't necessarily understand that it's all through the trackable technology that
Yeah.
you wear and that lasts both inside the studio and outside the studio. Um, and that's such a huge part of it is understanding what's going on inside your body so that you can make adjustments and make changes.
For the uninitiated who aren't me and you, who've spent many hours in one of those Orange studios, what are the constituent parts of that trackable technology? How does it appear both in class and out of class? Like walk us through like what a customer journey would be like.
Yeah, so coming in to take your first workout, we need to know a starting point before we even put a performance monitor on you, which I'll talk about in a second. We set you on an in-body. And for those of you who have never been on an in-body scan, it works similar to a scale. However, it takes a deeper dive. So you'll be able to see, okay, what is your body fat percentage? What kind of muscle mass are you working with? And where is your fat mass as a starting point? I like to explain to people that when you step on a scale, you're going to see one number. And that number is so vague. It's like, what is that? Like there's so much inside of us that gets in that number. And the in-body just takes a deeper dive. So once you know where your starting numbers are, then we get to talk to you about, well, why are you here? Like, what are you looking to change, right? Is that metabolic conditioning? Is that muscle gain, fat loss? Like, are you training for your half marathon that you've dreamed about? Your why, essentially. And as far as the trackable technology, that's where we give you your performance monitor. So you wear that on your arm or your chest, and it has the capabilities to track your data throughout class. So it's monitoring your heart rate, and just the coach is able to, guide you through the workout, customize the workout based on your heart rate for that day, because there are many factors, and we'll dive into that. But your heart rate there's so many variables when it comes
Yeah,
to
so
heart rate training.
and this is one of the things that appealed to me, especially when I was starting. It's heart rate as a percentage of your maximum heart rate. It's not your heart rate compared to everyone else's heart rate, because one of the elements for me about the class is that everyone's number is displayed on a screen, right? Where people can see it. So I didn't go to Orange Theory for the longest time because I was like, I don't want to compete with all these super fit people. Ironically, that's what I've ended up doing. But I don't want to compete with all these super fit people. When I realized it was a percentage of maximum, and actually it was a measure of effort rather than how fast you are or how fit you are, it really changed the way I thought about it.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to have that competitive mindset. I have a competitive mindset. So once I switched it to me competing with everyone else versus like I'm competing with myself, like, and I encourage that for folks if that's something that speaks to you. Doesn't speak to everyone, but it's okay to compete with yourself. That's how we get better. That's how we get stronger. And then the occasional, obviously, competing with your neighbor, that'll happen. You
Well,
get to know them. You get to
humans are
know.
humans.
Humans are humans. I really think that, of course, after your first five classes were the system's trying to learn you. You're trying to learn the system is learning you. So once it's collected all that data, it can then, every single class, automatically recalibrate to how you're feeling, how you're doing. And that's stuff I really try to emphasize with folks, is the more you wear it, the more accurate it becomes to learning what is your max, right? So that when you're up there and you're noticing like you're having a day where you're in the red, and then you realize, oh, but I did have my margaritas last night and I did get 3 hours of sleep and I'm stressed at work and all these other factors, you're able to not only push yourself on one end, but also give yourself some grace on the other.
Very important thing to do.
Absolutely.
So the system then gets to know you, and again, the more the system knows you, the more useful the data it gives back to you is, right?
100%. And everything that you're working on in class, it's all stored in your app under your profile. So you can then go back. I'm a big like reflect person. Like I like to see what I've done over the course of like long periods of time. So I'll go back and see what was my, what were my data points in July? Like where was I then versus where I am now? And I will go back in and look, okay, so on this day, our system also tracks, all right, what was your average speed on the treadmill? What was, your rowing? Like how far did you go on any given day? So I like to compare that data too, because it's not just heart rate that you can track. It's also just performance in, okay, maybe I got a few more miles in or what have you, depending on the class.
And it comes back to, as you say, competing against yourself and the benchmarks that you've set for yourself. And over time, you start to see that progress. And what you mentioned about the in-body is really interesting to me because, again, I become biased by my own experience, right? I will maniacally look at my benchmark scores on when any of the benchmarks come up, even the ones that I end up doing by accident because I don't realize they're happening before I come in. But again, for everyone else, like every so often there's a benchmark over certain activities, and sometimes it's a test of strength or speed, and sometimes it's a test of endurance, but they're really good kind of additional benchmarks beyond the things. And yet, and you can hold me as accountable to this as you like, I've not stepped on an in-body for 14 months. And part of that is like, that wasn't my goal. Like my goal was my aerobic fitness and my strength and whatever else. And I can track that without stepping on the in-body. For somebody else, though, the goal might be reducing my body fat percentage. And actually, I don't care how fast I can run a mile. Right? I just care about reducing my body fat percentage and consistently going. So for them, they have the option to choose a different set of data than I've got and track themselves that way.
Yeah. I mean, consumers, everyone, we want like autonomy over our workout. We want customizable. We want what works for us. So providing things like in-body with data points or benchmarks, which again, still have data points. You can still track how long it took you to complete your 1,000 meter row and what have you. Like it's going to speak to everyone. And for me personally, like I like to see like, okay, on benchmarks that are more endurance focused, how long can I stay like in the green zone? And for those listening, like that's your aerobic zone before you tip over to anaerobic. So like how long can I stay in that with the same speed or maybe an increase of speed before I, move over into an anaerobic zone or what we call the orange zone.
Yeah, that's a really I'd not thought about it that way. Maybe I still need to start thinking a bit more like that, and I'll end a few
But that's
less
the
classes lying on
beauty.
the floor.
It's like it's whatever works for you. You know what I mean? Like I think that's the just the versatility of things that you can track is pretty great.
That's how you make the best 1 hour workout in the country, right?
Exactly. Number one.
Now that we've talked about the zones, so the green zone is heart rate zone 3, so that's aerobic, and then you've got the orange zone, which is the zone 4, which I'll let you describe. But then there's also the red zone at the top of it. People make associations with those colors. I mean, those are colors that when, I'm talking to clients who are describing any sort of data, I always say be very careful about using these colors because humans associate psychological signals with them. Have you seen, across all the studios you've been in, all the classes that you've seen, that relate with people's psychological comfort with being in the, do you see people get scared who are in the red zone? Do you see people want to be in the green zone and not want to put, like, how do you see those colors and those zones affect what people do?
Well, I think it can be certainly approached two different ways, right? There's the group of people that they really like the red means alert, alarm, and that's very like psychologically like negative for them. So they try to avoid it. And then you have the people who are like chasing the highest intensity possible. So like I can speak to both. The first group, the individuals where they get in the red and they're like, I need to pull back, right? Because yeah, psychologically we see red, we think alarm, we think not safe, what have you. So it's important for us as coaches to educate in that moment. And I'll always tell someone in their first class, like, hey, you might see this happen. You might see red. That's a check-in for you, right? I'm not coaching you up to that zone that is like the higher end of your heart rate. You will feel very uncomfortable there. And as long as you're in control, you can hang out, right? I'll probably check in because like when we see red on the screen, we don't necessarily think alarm. We just think, all right, I'm going to have a little one-on-one with Graeme and see how he's doing.
I may have spent some minutes in that zone. Who knows?
Yeah, just a few. And that's okay. It's really okay because if we stay out of our limits, how will we know where that is? So I do think like it is okay for those people who are maybe more on the cautious side and who are a little scared of that zone. As long as you're in control, you're okay. Like it's okay to push ourselves in that zone. So long as you are aware.
Yeah, I mean, the truth, you talk about those two archetypes. In truth, probably the correct answer is to become a blissful, harmonious balance of both of those approaches. Unfortunately, humans are not necessarily programmed to be balanced and harmonious, and are more predictable than I think we like to think we are. But the benefit of both, and I recall some workouts or some themes that you've done where recovery is the theme, right? Which is just as important. And I think I mentioned in the introduction, and this is something I suffer from myself, like always pushing and not taking the time to recover can hurt your progress longer term, right?
Well, I love nothing more than a rest. And I think like there is nothing I enjoy more than taking a break and a recovery. And I have to remind clients who are in that go mindset that certain styles of training do require rest and pause. And that's not avoiding the work, it's part of the work. Like, for example, on the weight floor, we have something called work and rest. It's not just work and work some more, right? So it's incentivizing you to work so hard that you have to take a rest. And so therefore you can rest as much as you need to then get back into the hardest work possible, which can either be explosive movements or heavy weights. But I do think that the misconception of, especially when we talk about consistency with workouts, like how often you're working out, I think people sometimes like don't appreciate rest days enough, not just rest within your workout, but also taking active recovery days or even full recovery days so that your body and your muscles and that you have time to catch up and you don't burn out or crash out.
Yeah, I also wear one of these things, data lover that I am. This is a Whoop on my wrist, and I've worn it for approximately 647 days. Not that I've maniacally checked the data on the app or anything, but approximately. And actually, one of the
You a
things I
data
noticed.
person?
Oh yeah.
You data?
Have I mentioned that I played in my my son plays soccer and his team had a bye week. So rather than have a bye week, the coach said, okay, well, we'll have a scrimmage because they've got quite a large squad. And then any dads who want to play can play. And I've not played soccer for a long time. I dislocated my knee in college. So that was the kind of end. That was the end of that from a soccer perspective. But I played anyway. And the knees held up better than I expected. But I actually tweaked my Achilles a little bit by probably sprinting and then slowing down a little bit. And then for the first time in about 6 months, I went over a week without going to an Orangetheory class. Two things I noticed that play into this importance of rest thing. Number one, this tracks HRV or heart rate variability, which I think is still not a perfect science. But I think the way Whoop frames it is like it shows how ready you are to work out. And because I couldn't go and hammer on the treadmills every 2 days like I usually do, my HRV skyrocketed to the highest it has ever been. And it was like, actually, like, you should feel great. And I did feel a lot better. And then, of course, 8 days later, I come back expecting to be behind on the treadmills. And actually, I'm not at all. And I truly benefited. And it took a warning shot of an injury to actually get me there. And that's the risk, isn't it? With either of those two archetypes, if you get someone who's too cautious and wants to say green all the time, then they risk not making the progress and not fulfilling the why that they came to. If you have someone who's hammering the far end of the red all the time, then their form's going to suffer and they risk getting injured. And presumably you're looking for a win-win, right? Because you want someone to stay. First, to help them achieve their why and their purpose. And secondly, like, you're all running a business as well, right? You don't want customers coming in and then leaving 2 months later, because then that will do very sad things to the amount of marketing budget you have to put out there. So how do you spot the patterns early? And in the interest of people's long-term goals and fulfilling and meeting their purpose, like, how do you, I mean, everyone's such a different individual. Like, how do you begin to start thinking about coaching that long term outside of the individual, what's happening in that any given class?
And that's something, the spotting that early is something that it will always be a conversation. Like, that is a constant for us. But I'll go back to what Orangetheory is and then our job as coaches. And Orangetheory, we give people more life, right? And what more life means to everyone is very different. But our job as coaches is to energize our members so that they can fulfill the things that they need to do to have more vibrant, fulfilled, more life. Like, that's just our, like, energize. That's our whole thing. So when someone is coming in, for instance, and they are either under, like, maybe they aren't finding themselves as consistent with their work, and they're getting discouraged, right? We see that a lot, where someone commits and then life, time, like, everything is going to try to get in the way of you achieving that. So for us, it's all about making sure that people are, like, showing up and they feel energized for it. And that can be a simple phone call. Like, hey, Graeme, we noticed you haven't been here in about 2 weeks. That's highly unusual for you. And then you'd come back and be like, well, my Achilles is acting up. And we're like, oh, okay.
It makes sense. Yeah.
It makes sense. But it can either be that someone isn't showing up and seeing the results and feeling the results. And I think you talked about that, like, people who weren't necessarily giving their full effort when they're in the room. So they're not seeing the progress they want. The product works, but you have to show up to do the product for it to work. That's scenario one. Then scenario number two, of someone who might be overtraining or, finding themselves being burnt out.
Mhm.
That's where we would try to have that coaching moment with them of, let's talk about your green day. Like, let's talk about how you can take a breath and come back refreshed. Like, similar to how you said, like, you didn't see too much of, like, a downfall from not being in the studio for that long. And I think that's also what people can sometimes, I had a conversation with a friend the other day. He was like, I haven't worked out in a month. And he's not an Orangetheory member. He just was like, I've really gotten out of it. And that's a slippery slope.
Oh, I've been on that slope many times in my life.
So easy to do. And it just takes one or two to get back into it, into a routine, but not showing up for like a week isn't going to derail months worth of progress. It's when you let it become like much longer if you don't already have a settled routine.
It's a tricky thing. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts as well as recording them, and I there was one I listened to last month that's really kind of stuck with me. And often when people want to improve in some way, whatever that way might be, and it could be fitness, they look for things to add. And you can see how Orangetheory or any gym might slide nicely into that of like, oh, I'll just join a gym and then add going to the gym into my already very busy and stressed life, and that will solve all my problems. And actually, what can end up happening is you dilute your effort to the point that you do nothing well. You don't go to the gym well, and you stop being become a slightly less good parent, a slightly less good employee, a slightly less good friend, and all of these things all at once. And actually, the truth is that 90+% of the time, the correct answer is in what do I need to stop doing before you get to what do I need to start doing. So the simple example I use is with my children who say they've got no time to go, and I'm so envious of these teenagers. I was like, if you just put a little bit of effort into your fitness, like the gains and the improvement you would see is so much faster than I'm going to get.
Yes.
I always say to them, like, I did this in COVID. I hadn't exercised for years, never mind months like your friend, but years. And I said, I'm going to run a mile every day, no matter what, rain, shine, whatever, and frost. I'm just going to do it. And without even trying or thinking about pace or whatever, like that mile went from 12 and a half minutes to 8 minutes in 50 days just from doing it. And COVID actually, for all the terrible things it brought to the world, did a great job of clearing our plates, right?
Yeah.
And removing things. So, the example I use with my kids is, you tell me you haven't got time to go for a run, but you have got time to play Clash Royale for 4 hours on your iPhone. So why don't we talk about, but yeah, they do want to improve and be fitter, and especially my son who plays soccer, he wants to be able to run harder and longer on the soccer field, but he hasn't got time. I'm like, well, let's start with not playing for Clash Royale for 4 hours a day, and then then we'll talk about improving. So it's because I'm sure you get people all across that spectrum of like, maybe you might get someone who walks through the door and it might be maybe there's 3 or 4 other things they need to stop doing before they start doing this. And it's, you only see the data for what happens when people are in that door for the hour, and you have to, your expertise and your wonderful coaches and even your salespeople have to do this really difficult job of getting to know the human beings so that they can understand that all the data that they don't have on the machine that shows about the right thing. And that's one of the things I love about what you all do.
Yeah. I mean, and what you're speaking to is one of my favorite philosophies of like habit stacking. So if we're stacking good habits stack good habits, right? Like oh, I'm in my routine, so naturally I'm going to want to eat better. And then if I'm doing that, then maybe I'm going to be more mindful with gratitude, and then my relationships get stronger. And then like all these things really play in. So I like the idea, but first you have to assess. Like I call it like you have to do, I'll sometimes have to do this like after a really busy week where I've just been not on my grocery shopping game. I'll have to do like a fridge audit. Like, and I think like sometimes we have to do like a life audit where we just kind of sit down and we lay everything out. And what are my habits that I'm doing right now? Okay. Am I going out 3 days a week? Okay. Could I cut that back to be 2 days a week? And then maybe I meal prep one week
Yeah.
or one
Maybe you
day
don't
of
end
the
up
week.
with a dead bag of spinach in your refrigerator every week like I do.
It's so sad, the changing of the guard. It happens every once in a while. Um, but also I just put my, like when it's almost about to wilt, I'll put it in the freezer and use it for smoothies. So
Oh, there you go.
it doesn't go
Good.
bad. But
No food waste. I love it.
no food to waste. But it is that idea of let's take out, and I think it honestly, as a coach, and I'll say this to you, if you were to take my class first, like the first thing you got to remove is like, what are your excuses that are simply just your excuses? Because we can make time for whatever we find is most important. So like I hear that a lot. Like, oh well, I just have to check my work schedule, or I don't know if this timing is going to work out. And I'm pretty upfront. Like I'm pretty blunt about, okay, well, we make time for what's important to us. So if you're telling me that your metabolic health is important to you, then maybe we should like do a habit audit and figure out what needs to change for you to get in here those 3 days a week and start seeing change.
Or the harsher version, which we lived through together this week, Maddie, is that 5 a.m. class is always available, and you could be home before your children even get out of bed and before your employer even knows you're awake.
It is the middle of the night class. You will come in, it'll be dark, you'll leave, it'll still be dark. It's like it doesn't happen.
I'm sure you busted me yawning a couple of times, but there we go. I a little nap.
Honestly, the 5 a.m. crew though always comes in with the most energy. Like those are like the morning people. Those are my people. So
Yeah, on autopilot. Like, I'm here to do this thing, and I'm gonna do it because it's part of my habit stack, and then I'm gonna go on with my day as well. So, yeah, no, I prefer the morning too. I think I would try and go in the afternoon. If I've got anything inside of me at all, like including like even just a day's worth of good hydration, that starts sloshing around in me on the treadmill, like I find it harder. But again, I know people who do the opposite, so you've got them all covered. We've spoken a lot about individuals and how you can adjust and adapt to individuals to help them achieve their goals. You sit across multiple studios, so can you tell me if what that looks like in terms of any data you might look at? Do you look at data even at a class level to assess like which classes are working well or not working well, or even at a studio level, like across the region that you sit across? Like, how do you use that data in an aggregated form?
yeah, I think I like to separate it when I'm talking about the region. I oversee 2 regions. So it's the DC and then it's VA because those are just a totally different market that like service completely different like walks of life and like times of classes, like all of that changes. So if I'm speaking to simply VA, um, you're finding a lot of the class times that are before and after work. Those are like heavy utilized classes where you do get the people who are the 5 a.m.ers, or you'll get the 7:30 at nights where no, my day is full with my kids, my family. Um, I need to know that this hour is here because this is the 1 hour that I get to myself. So, especially like suburban populations, like really trying to cater to those like early morning, late night populations. Similar in the city, but you do get much more of, oh, I can sneak out on my lunch, like because we're
Oh, I
within
see. Right.
walking distance from the office, or um, a lot of last minute, like, oh, my meeting got canceled, so I'm coming to do a class.
And do those
So,
studios have more than one shower in them?
oh yes, oh
Oh, I
yeah,
see. Like different. Oh, so they kind of adapt to the needs. I see.
oh yeah. And studio layout is always going to be different depending on where you are, but you do see, I mean, across. It is really interesting because we're talking about like various heart rate data points. That's a little more. That's harder to track across that many studios. But if I'm looking at like traffic patterns and trends, it is extremely time of day of the week. Like you just know where those like high traffic times are. And
Yeah, I mean, I see at the bottom of at the bottom of the display in each class, it's got here's the total calories for this class or the total splat points for this class. Like, presumably someone in central programming is thinking about how to structure the classes, and they use that data to inform like, hey, this one worked well, people pushed themselves, this one didn't, or whatever else. And because the structure and the content of the class is at least through my viewpoint, is constantly changing.
I so have you ever been to a class where you're like, oh, like I really pushed myself in that class more so. Like, have you found that like there's certain
Yeah,
classes that you
that
either
torture
burn more
machine
calories
yesterday
for?
with the 3-minute interval sneakily adding incline to them, like that one, for example, sneaks up on you. And
Yeah. Yeah. I think the the days specifically, and for those listening, like like less power, right? The characteristics of a power day on the treadmill where you're doing a very high intensity effort for a short period of time and then you get long recovery, right? That like work and rest. On those days, you see so much time with your heart rate lowered. Like for most folks, you see the like the peak and valley formation of the heart rate. So you're gonna see a lower splat point on that day for
Yeah.
like the class. Just because
By
if
design,
you're
right?
by design, because when we're working power, it's more about like your fast twitch muscles and like you're wanting to see how high your output can be, which means that you then have to really recover and you have to lower your heart rate as much as you can so that you can then go into your next effort, giving it your, I call it 9 out of 10 effort, because if we ever reach 10, then we've done it. Pack the bags, let's go home. Like, we're always looking to get better, but you're looking for your 9 out of 10 effort on those days. So
Yeah.
you'll see fewer splat points.
Yeah. I love that. Do you obviously you take part in classes yourself as part of the experience, and I noticed the coaches doing that, and I think that's great from a customer experience. Like, you have to live the customer experience. Like, do you and the other coaches like do other forms of workout? Do you think there's other things that people could do that complement Orange Theory?
I really think it's preference. It really does. Like, I would say up until this year, like, Orange Theory has been my like 100% like workout routine. And I mean, like, having gotten my blood drawn and looking at all of my data for myself, like, it works. Like, if Orange Theory is your bread and butter, if that is like what you're doing 100% of the time, you're going to get everything you need and more. I personally, just for my coaching brain, just for me as like a fitness professional, will dabble in with other concepts and with other types of working out, just so I stay relevant and I stay up on like, okay, how can I get better and learn from something that isn't Orange Theory but is still fitness? And for me, it's been a lot of getting into more Pilates, reformer work, uh, trying to deepen my knowledge in the things that I don't normally work uh, on my day-to-day to help me be a better coach under the orange lights.
Yeah. The one thing I noticed that springs to mind, and it's about to happen again. I ran the local turkey trot last year, expecting to replicate treadmill performance. Turns out real life hills and treadmill hills are a little different. I like apparently actually moving the body weight up against the force of gravity it adds a little something to it.
And when you don't have the beauty of a flex deck absorbing like 40% of your impact and you're just
Yes.
hitting hard earth, I have to remind myself that too. Because again, I've run a half marathon before. I've done a lot of outside running. And I'm always like, why did that feel so different? Like, why did that
Yes.
I'm like holding my pace. I'm like, I'm doing it. What is it? Like, my zones, everything is like lining up, because I'll wear my OTB outside when I run so that I can track it in and out of studio and make sure that I'm staying on course. Because I'm one of those people, I'll let myself off the hook sometimes when I know I should be pushing harder. But all that to be aside, the way my body like strikes the ground versus the treadmill, so different on the backside. So I'm a big believer in the flex deck, but also, yeah, the turkey trot. Wait, so you're doing
Yeah,
the turkey trot this year?
oh yeah, totally. Yeah, we'll see.
Good. You'll have to let
We'll
me know
see.
how that
We're gonna
goes.
get a better time, but we'll see. We'll see. So, like, I mean, we've covered all of the, I think within Orange Theory, we cover like data maniacs like me who I'm going to track everything, and then I'm going to track extra things as well, because that's just how my mind works. I also see it work like with fellow members. There are people who come in, they never wear the heart rate monitor, they never look at the screen, but they have a great time and they achieve their purpose and why out of it as well. So, I think it's you can use the data or not use the data. Neither is right or wrong, but if people follow the purpose, so they can always get there. For someone who doesn't, if for someone who's listening who doesn't have access to Orange Theory, or doesn't try it, or even someone who's where I used to be, right, intimidated out of even starting a fitness journey because it's going to be hard and I
Yeah.
feel out of my depth and I don't know what to do. Like, if that person sitting at home on the couch feeling intimidated, and Orange Theory is a jump too far, right, as a first step, what's one metric that you think that they might track just in order to put that first step on the road? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So what would you encourage them to track in terms of habit stacking?
I'm a big believer that movement is medicine. It's preventative medicine. If you can get up and move your body, whether it's a walk down the street, walking, like 30 minutes. Start with 30 minutes of whatever that looks like. I think what we have, and this is a double-edged sword, but we have a lot at our fingertips as far as like things that we can do at home. There's a lot out there that you can just do in your living room. Like my mom, she loves her outdoor, her walks, her runs, but then she'll do, she just recently had like some PT on her hip, and her PT gave her like, she has like mini bands at home, or just even just the body weight movements that she'll do to not only rehab with her hip, but also kind of strengthen like her strength training at home. So there's so much that you can do, and make it fun. Like
Right.
if you are going to be doing something and you're starting that journey, like bring someone with you. Like, hey, I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk. Do you want to come with me? Having an accountability buddy who also you have fun with, that's everything. Like having fun while you're doing it, having a buddy. I mean, 30 minutes, that's
Yeah.
that's
And
the
then
starting point.
presumably once we've got that starting point and it's fun, like the point is that we then keep doing it, right? And
Yeah.
it's
You have
that's the
to,
thing to track. Like, are we going back and doing it again?
yeah, because there's certain, like, it shows like consistent effort. It doesn't have to be high intensity effort, but like consistent effort is proven for long lasting results. So maybe you're someone who is going from 0 to 30 minutes, you're going to see and feel change, right? Like everyone's starting line looks different. So like consistently that 30 minutes a day, you'll start to see and feel it.
Yeah, magic. Well, Maddie, I've had so much fun chatting to you for a whole hour rather than just 2 minutes through a window of sweat on my forehead. So thank you.
Between all outs.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not dying. Not yet anyway. But thank you so much for coming in. I will make sure when we put the show notes out that we include a link for people. I assume you're still running the offer where people can come and try a class for free in the neighborhood where they live if they want to come in and try it out, and give Orangetheory a go for a class, and meet loads of other amazing coaches just like Maddie, who will help you achieve your purpose. Then I'll put a link below. And so yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and a great chat, and I will see you very soon, maybe for a class, maybe to discuss when we're releasing our first single as a duet.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. We need to release an album now. Now this is it. We're doing it.
The whole album. There you go.
The whole
There you
album.
go.
Like why start with just a single when you could just do the whole album?
Yeah, exactly. We'll not a couple of hours. We'll have it knocked out. No problem. All right. I'll look forward to it. I'll talk to you very soon. Thanks
right.
again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Transformed with Data. If today's conversation gave you even one insight, one aha moment, or one new idea to take action on, do me a favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who's ready to level up. Until next time, keep asking the right questions, keep challenging the status quo, and keep transforming with data.